Okay.
Okay. Hi, Olga. Thank you so much for joining me today on my podcast. As before we really dive in, I'm gonna share your bio and then you can add anything extra and what you feel like needs added. How's that sound?
Yeah, good. Good.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay. Okay. So today, everyone, I have Olga Chernyavska with me today. She is an online counselor and psychotherapist who specializes in helping people navigate anxiety, worry, and trauma. Her approach is grounded in holistic philosophy, recognizing the deep connection between the mind and the body, and how emotional, physical, social, and spiritual aspects of life shape our well-being. Before becoming a therapist, Olga spent over 16 years working in adult social services, supporting individuals living with long-term physical health conditions. This gave her a deep understanding of the emotional impact of chronic illness and the resilience and adaptability people draw on in their daily lives. During her time
Mhm.
in social services, she also worked in an office-based setting and completed professional health and safety training. These experiences gave her a unique insight into workplace stress, burnout, and psychological toll of high-pressure environments, an area many clients bring to therapy through work-related challenges and career concerns. She offers tailored mind and body approaches to therapy using mindset and techniques to shift thought patterns that influence emotional and physical well-being, integrate body-focused tools to help release stress and trauma stored in the body. The two-way process supports both mental clarity and physical relief. She also offers weekly sessions and intensive therapies for people who want to really get in for faster healing. And both formats are designed to help clients better understand their challenges, overcome them, and improve the quality of life so they can move forward with confidence and reach their full potential. So,
Hey, great. Thank
hey.
you.
Yes.
Well
Okay.
done.
Anything you want to add that I didn't that was not covered?
I think the most important things have been covered. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. So, like I started with everyone else, and I think we did this before, but I kind of covered a little bit in your bio, but what really brought you to being a therapist?
Right. Well, it started a while back. So I did my BSc psychology, and around that time, I came to appreciate and understand more about the impact our families and ancestors have on ourselves and our development, the way we function in life. Yes, so I became more interested in that. And that's how I trained as a counselor, integrative counselor first. And later on, I've done my training in psychotherapy, and I wanted to focus more on trauma and how it affects the body and connection between mind and the body. So overall, going back to the question, answering that, I would to support people who haven't had enough support, maybe throughout their childhood specifically, and obviously a lot of people who haven't had um, enough support in childhood. Often, unfortunately, they don't have enough support in adult life. So I wanted to help those people and support them in the way I could.
Really
Yeah.
cool. So, what's like your ideal person to work with?
All right. Ideal person. Well, I kind of have two. I know some therapists put them together, but they can be seen separately. Depends which part might be more dominant. But sometimes two come together. But anyway, I've separated. So I have people who are predominantly helpers or in some way carers in their lives, meaning that they do a lot for other people and they slightly forget about themselves. And that can lead to burnout and all other problems. Well, there is always anxiety before burnout, but um, yeah, so there is a risk there. And another category or type of people are high achievers. Those are the ones that put a lot of energy into work and they slightly overwork. So then that being anxious at first and then possibly burns out. So yeah, so it's about how to um, help either of them to function better. So what usually happens, people who are high achievers and they like to be their best at everything they do, they sometimes, or a lot of the time, prefer intensive therapy. So they like to dive in, do as much as they can in 1 week, and then see how they function afterwards because they're quite independent, they want to do what they can do in a very short time and hopefully get better. So that works for them. Of course, later on they can switch to having weekly therapy, but at the beginning they want to know as much as possible right now. So that works for them. And the mm, carers or helpers, depends how they see themselves. They prefer weekly therapy because they need time to digest things and process things between one session to another, between 1 week to another. So yeah, but they can have intensive therapy too if they want to, but it depends on their level of energy really and what they want to achieve, how quickly they want to achieve, but they don't seem to be maybe rushing as much as the other group does. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think too, like, with especially like, with the carers, the people are like, or the caregivers, and they put themselves last a lot of time. They like the weekly piece because it is literally an hour a week just for them.
Hmm.
Like it's like
Yes.
it's set aside time, so like they like and then they don't really feel guilty because it's like it's a medical thing. Like you're getting a medical treatment that you really need, so that it
Hmm.
can like justify it in their head too. So I think that's why they like the weekly more than just like the get in nitty gritty intensive that like the high achievers really like.
Yes, yes, that's it seems to be the case. But I also have to recognize that people come to therapy at different times um, of their need. So it depends on their energy. Obviously, if they're burned out, maybe weekly or intensive therapy might be too much for them. So weekly might be a better option. So it depends where they're at with their struggles. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I haven't I mean I offer intensives. I haven't actually been able to like no one signed up for one yet with me. But I can imagine like just how transformative like getting in there and like doing the work is for people, especially like whenever you do it, like because you're like really diving deep and you're staying deep for so long, and it's probably like
Mm.
the transformation is probably like so fast.
Well, intensive therapy, obviously, it's the way I do it. I do 2 hours per day, 6 days in a row. So obviously, it will not resolve all the issues, or if there is a trauma, of course, it will not most likely. But what it does, we have a holistic understanding of the problem. We understand the root of the problem, what can be done in the meanwhile, and what can be done if someone wants to deal with the trauma at the late stage. And we have to discover if people are ready or not, because sometimes people might think they're ready, but when they start therapy, we discover that they're not. um, yeah, so we just need to work out what is what, but it does give overall holistic picture of the situation, overall the root problems, and depending what people are ready for. And as I said, trauma can mean different things. It can be small
Right.
trauma, it can be big trauma. So certain things can be resolved relatively quickly, or at least eased. But obviously, deep rooted, or when someone has had a lot of trauma in their lives, then it would need more time. Yeah.
Nice. So what type of approach do you like to use in your practice?
All right, in my practice. Um, well, at first I was trained as an integrative counselor, so that was mainly mind-driven approaches like transactional analysis, for example, is TA, or person-centered or psychodynamic. Um, Gestalt had a little bit of body involved in it. So those are the things that are um, useful and they're good, but they're mind driven. And it's fine. A lot of people start there because a lot of people are a little bit disconnected from their bodies. So they like to start from somewhere where they can have control of things, for example, CBT. So it gives people some tools and some techniques they can use now. So it increases confidence, coping strategies. Yeah, so we can start from there. That's fine. It's where people are ready to start. Um, and then, of course, because I am a Kundalini yoga teacher, and um, myself, I did sports when I was younger, so it makes sense for me to include the body in general. And I'm used to, in general, holistic approach to health. Again, that's um, from my background. Yeah, so it makes more sense to include everything, including the body. So I do include body-driven approaches. And of course, there are approaches that we call mind-body approaches, where there is a bridge in between. So, for example, it could be sensory motor approach. So that involves some movement, it involves the body, and it involves some thinking. So it involves actually both approaches coming together, ideally,
Yeah.
for integration of everything within ourselves. So yes, but again, as I said, some people are not ready to include their body into treatment. Some are categorically not ready. And some people are not ready at first, but once they become more familiar with themselves and their bodies and what's going on, then they're actually quite good at using, for example, movement, because I do use movement from yoga to release some difficult emotions, like anger or sadness, those kind of things. So through the movement, it works. But we start where the person is ready, and then we move and see what happens.
Nice. So like on average, how long do people like usually take for like at least like you've seen take to be like willing to like really get in touch with their bodies? 'Cause, like I've been seeing that a lot too. Like
Mm,
some especially traumas, like people would like they disconnect themselves from their body to protect themselves, and they say like so like, it's stuck in their mind,
mhm.
and trying to get them to bridge the two is like it is really hard and does take time.
It's difficult to say, as I said, some people are just slightly disconnected because life has been busy. Um, for some people, it's more to do with the trauma, but to be honest, we all have had trauma in our lives. It's just the degree of it, um, so some things we don't call trauma, but it's actually a trauma. But anyway, it depends on lots of different things. So it's very difficult to say how long it might take for anyone to reconnect with their body and have less pressure in their head. Yeah, so have more balance in themselves, and therefore more balance in outside. So yeah, that's what I tend to do, and it tends to happen when people have more connection first and then more balance within themselves. Things seems to happen better in terms of everything else that happens outside in their lives, like relationships, work, things like that.
Nice, that's so cool. And I think last time you and I talked, you mentioned that you also like, kind of incorporate some spiritual things, like with the chakras and stuff like that. Do
Mm.
you like pull in whenever you did the yoga moves, or like when do you pull that piece in?
Oh, chakras. Well, I think chakras make lots of sense to me in terms of how the body functions and how people are affected psychologically. And obviously, there is an overlap and interconnection between the two anyway. Um, so I think it's more a theoretical base for myself. But if people are interested, I might share it with them. Not everyone is interested in to know things from a theoretical perspective. But what I found throughout my experience working with people, or maybe just the types of people that I work with, is that when I share some of the knowledge, some of the psychoeducational material, people like to find out more about it, and then they might come up with their own options of something. Um, and yeah, and yeah, they show more motivation and eagerness and excitement and enthusiasm at doing better and seeing the progress, where they've started, where they are, where they're going. Yeah, they seem to understand better what's going on, and that makes the big impact for them. So it creates a shift. So most people like a psychoeducational staff. So I do give some of it, don't give too much of it, but I do give what is relevant, really. Yeah.
That's so cool. Nice. Um, and so is there any, so like that part's like super cool. Like so like dealing with the caregivers and like the high achievers and like using all of those integration pieces. Um, but aren't you also doing something with like on the other side, like kind of like a coaching aspect as well, like with like
Mhm.
your with hoarding. So like what can you tell me a little bit more about that?
All right. Okay. Well, um, hoarding. I don't offer therapy for hoarding. Um, but I do offer support around hoarding and clutter. So it's like I call it tidying support. So it's for people who have those difficulties. And again, some people use these words interchangeably, but actually they mean different things. So some people might be having cluttered home means the home is not organized enough due to maybe lack of time because they're working too much or they're achieving too much or maybe they're exercising too much, whatever it might mean, or maybe giving out their time and empathy to other people, whatever it might mean. Yeah, so, but it does create, in one way or another, it does create difficulties on emotional level and on a practical level, whether it is cluttering or hoarding. But hoarding is a little bit more severe
Mhm.
aspect of cluttering. So it's not just cluttering, the emotions are more intense. And the person with hoarding has got intense attachment to the items that they possess and they want to keep them, and it's very difficult for them to get rid of them and things like that. And also, hoarding, it's a diagnosed condition, it's a mental health disorder, whereas cluttering is not clinical. So the intensity is different. For example, with hoarding, the main feeling, there are different feelings that people might be experiencing, but the most maybe difficult or significant one is shame, whereas in cluttering is a little bit reduced, so it could be like embarrassment. So, but in both difficulties, there is a problem around decision making, how to obviously organize home and keep it safe. Yeah, so on the practical level, again, cluttering is just disorganized home, whereas hoarding possesses lots of different risks, um, like risks around maneuvering around the property, or fire risks, or risks to do with possible infestation, risks to do with, for example, finances, because hoarders tend to spend a lot of money on buying new items, or risks to do with possible eviction, if the landlords don't like that they have so many possessions, and that could cause extra risks in terms of fire. Yeah, so there are different risks. So everything with hoarding is a little bit more magnified,
Yeah.
or a lot magnified, in comparison to people who have cluttered home. So, and as well, when we are working with hoarders, we need to be mindful that um, research shows that their brain is structured differently. So they have difficulties with their prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for organizing, planning, and decision making. That's why it's very difficult for them to even begin doing something about their home. So that's why I offer um, coaching and guidance. So coaching is more about emotional support. It's about helping someone to stay motivated and reduce anxiety, because anxiety and stress are very high with people who have holding difficulties.
Right.
And guidance um, is usually about practical steps, like breaking things down into smaller steps that we can take to make the home safer or cleaner, depending what needs to be done. But it's all about organizing and having structure. That's what they need. Yeah, so that's what I do. But as I said, people with hoarding, they on a physical level have different brain structure, so they would need different approaches to even therapy.
Yeah.
I don't do therapy with holders right now, but maybe one day I will. But as I say, it needs different way of working, and sometimes holders are not ready for it, or they might be, but at the later stage. So there is a way of building up to it, I think. And
Yeah.
tidying support could be seen as one way closer towards therapy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's really cool. So like what drew you to like having like that as like a coaching support option, as like helping them get things tidied up?
Well, I worked in social services, so I'm aware of the difficulty of the hoarding difficulty, and obviously the impact it has on a practical level and psychological level on people. So it's finding something that would work for them. So currently the options are usually either they stay as they are and the situation becomes worse, or there is a lot of um, services or emphasis on them having their home decluttered, and it's very, very difficult for them. So what I'm doing, I'm offering something in between. So they don't have to go through the stress of decluttering because they're not just ready, but at the same time, we can work on making their home safer, more livable, and maybe they can even possibly at some point even invite friends over or whatever, family. Um, so it depends on the situation, but yeah, which is usually a problem because they feel so isolated and so ashamed they don't want anyone over. Um, and hoarders would usually prefer actually a support that is away from the people that they know, so they don't feel so ashamed and so
Mhm.
traumatized by doing all this. So yes, so I'm offering something in between, so they don't have to declutter anything, but at the same time we're moving away from the situation possibly becoming worse. So at least we can make things safer for them.
Yeah, so it's kind of like it's not so much like getting rid of the things, but maybe like moving it from like a really dirty, unsafe kitchen, putting that stuff in a different area, getting the kitchen cleaned up so they can actually have safe, edible food.
Well, sometimes people can have with hoarding difficulties. Sometimes they can have too much of the food and a lot of it goes off. So it needs to be checked time to time. So it can be um, disposed of to
Yeah.
prepare to make sure that there is no infestation coming through as the next problem. So yeah, so it's all about safety, yeah. So although yeah, it depends, I think, as well on the type of hoarders, because hoarders can hoard anything. And some of them are okay with throwing the food away, some are not. It's a little bit like depending on the problem. But in my on my website, which I'm updating currently, I do write the criteria about what kind of hoarders I will work with. So there is a criteria that I work with and I will not work with. So I need someone to have mental capacity to make the decisions for themselves. And I can work with someone who has clean homes. They can be hoarded, but the homes are not. at that stage where it could be like an emergency, because yeah, that
Yeah, like
involves a lot of layer of work, between the client and myself. So it depends maybe on the yeah. So it has lots of different complications.
yeah, like no biohazards, no like rat infestations, roach infestations, anything like that. Like,
Yes, because that is another level of risk, which I am not dealing with online in my capacity. Maybe everything else could be dealt by housing or social services, but it's just not going to be the best thing to deal for me. So for
right.
me, I focus on something that is more doable, practical, and reasonable. um, yes,
Yeah.
the high risk things can be left for the agencies to cope with.
Yeah, that makes sense. So since it's virtual, are you just doing it in the UK, or are you also offering it like kind of like worldwide?
And it can be worldwide, because I know that in for example in the States, when it comes to therapy, everyone has to be licensed in different states. And so I'm not licensed in America, so I wouldn't be able to see, I think, clients in America as a therapist. But from what I understand, as a coach of whatever, I can work with people um, in America. And I think it's more or less the situation the same as in um, Canada, Australia, and places like that. I don't know all the places. The world is big.
Yes. Like,
So yes, so coaching in yoga, it's something that doesn't require licensing, so I can work with it online and with anyone, from what I know so far.
yeah. Yeah, because like I actually started looking into like starting a coaching aspect on my end too. And like, yeah, like you can do coaching worldwide as long as you can speak the language of who you're coaching with. Because like you don't want to have like that huge language barrier, but you're bilingual.
Yeah.
So like I feel so like you'd have a little bit easier time than I would at least. I'm not bilingual. I can just only speak English.
You can always
And
learn another language if you want to.
that's true. I mean, I did learn French in high school, but like I got to like maybe 5-year-old levels of fluent of like being fluent because I was never like immersed in it. And
Mm.
I can remember going to Montreal and Quebec for a French trip, and like we were told by our teachers that we had to speak French to these people. And we would all try, and they would I would make understand that we were Americans and we didn't know what we were saying, and they would speak to us in English. I was like, well, okay.
Solved.
Like, so it's like, okay, so we can't practice our French because you guys know that we suck at it. So you're just supposed to speak to us in English. But
Yeah.
yeah, I did like learning French. It was fun. Um, I haven't I had to use it a little bit since because my nephew's learning it, so I got to help him a little bit, but not too much. There's not much of a need for me to speak French currently, unless someone
Yeah.
someone
Yes,
decides
yes.
to
It's
kind of
all
like
about the need a lot of the time, yes. So if you had to
right.
work in France, or if you had to have clients in France, or if you had particular interest, then yes, then it would be a
Yeah,
different thing altogether. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming it's just you're just bilingual unless you know any language. Because now you don't know Russian because you're from Russia originally,
hmm
correct?
I'm
And then
Russian, yeah, yes.
yeah, and then you moved to the UK. So, do you know any other languages other than Russian and English?
Oh no, it's okay. It's enough for me. It's enough for me. No, I'm not planning on learning any other. No, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine like the trip because like the Cyrillic alphabet. To me, I can't even compute it in my head because I have like never learned it. So I can only imagine like this opposite and how like that process was.
Well, the grammar is um, different, and I think in general the cultural norms are different. So it's not just the language that you have to pick up; you have to pick up everything else. Yeah. So what is okay for me doesn't necessarily mean okay for someone else. So but that's the way it is. It's about finding the balance between the two. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Um, so what drew you from Russia to the UK?
Oh gosh. Um, well, I just wanted to see um what's yeah, it's a long story, but um well, the educational system was better, not better, it's easier. So for me it was better to study here than study at home. It's just easy. So yeah, so that's how it happened. Yeah. So yeah, and yeah, it's always good to go and live somewhere else. Traveling somewhere is one thing, seeing the world um, as a tourist is another thing, and living somewhere is something else. So it's always good. So and yes, it's been a great learning curve, I think. Um, yeah, it's been interesting to be in the minority. Yeah, let's say that. The world appears to be very different once you're in minority.
Yeah, I can imagine because like it's definitely just like culturally like everything is like so different in like Eastern
Mm.
Europe versus Western Europe. And I mean, I've never been there, unfortunately. I want to. I want to so badly. Um, but I have not yet had the opportunity to go to Europe. But I can just imagine just from what I've seen in the news, like how just different it is culturally on each side.
Yes, it is different. It is different. But as I said, it's difficult to pick it up if you're just traveling there as one-off, or even if you live there for a couple of years, you still wouldn't be able to pick up the depth of the things. So it takes longer. And again, if you don't know the language, it makes it harder. So when you're diving into another culture, it has to be on every single level. So yeah. So it's not just job, it's about how the health system functions, it's how the language is different, it's how the social interaction is different, it's how the family structures are different. So unless you um, look at all these different levels and you live through it, it's very difficult to make a judgment, really.
Yeah, that's very true. Um, my husband, like with his travels with deployment, he's been to like the different countries over in Europe, and he's like, "Yeah, it's whatever." But I'm like, "You never actually got to see anything. Like you were there for like maybe a day, so it's like it doesn't count." So remember, he's in Germany. He was in Germany for quite a bit, but even then, he is still on a military base. So it's like, okay,
Yeah,
like it's not the same. So
it's not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same. Yes, as I said, living somewhere, depending on the amount of years, and traveling to see someone or traveling just as a tourist, it's just very different perspectives of things. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm, yeah.
yeah. Are you planning on so like if you move back to Russia, will your license transfer to Russia, or you have to get like re-licensed? Like, how does that work?
Oh, we'll have to see. It's a little bit complicated in the way things are done in Britain. But in Russia, yeah, it's a different story altogether. So as I said, our educations are different. So I think as a private practice, I think I would be able to practice there, but I'm not sure about the government places if I wanted to practice there, how they would be able to accept or not my qualifications. So yeah, but I'm registered with one of the associations there. So I registered in 2023. So yeah, so I'm doing some trainings with them and getting involved in different projects. So it's all good.
Nice. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's still
Nice.
it is good. Yeah.
Yeah. I know, it's like I love talking to like my friends that I have like overseas. It's like it's so different than how it is in America because
Hmm.
we have to worry about state to state, but it's easier for you, not easier, but like there's a possibility of you guys to like do country to country because the countries are so close. And I just think it's cool, so cool.
Oh, I don't know. It depends what you consider close. I think Britain is closer to America than to Russia, but it depends. It depends how you look at it. Yeah, but
Yeah.
politically or geography, on the level of geography or on any other level. But yeah. So as I said, mm, it's different. There's yet to be seen, but I think in Britain, at least, when you register as a therapist, you can practice everywhere in Britain. Um, in Russia, there is a process of changing legislation around the practice of um, anything to do with psychology, psychotherapy. As I said, the education is different, so it's going to be difficult for me to explain the differences. Um,
Yeah.
but because the people started to travel and trained in different parts of the world, yeah, it's difficult to pull it together. Yeah, as I said, yeah, we had our standards, then people went and started training and living abroad. Now, when they're going back together, there is a lot of mismatch. So yeah, so there is a process of looking at it and seeing how things can be possibly standardized and yeah, so we'll have to see. It's a process.
Yeah. Yes, because like you got trained in Britain, and if someone went from like Russia to America, the process is a little bit different in America, or if they went from Russia to Germany or Germany or Russia to France, like I can only
Yeah,
imagine like the
yeah,
differences.
it's all complicated. Like every country wants their own standards to be implemented and things like that. And I don't know. Some of it is helpful, some of it is not. But yeah, we'll have to see. But everyone is protective of themselves, I guess. So that's what each country has to do. So yeah,
Yeah,
so I might do an extra course or two to match up my Russian standards. So
yeah. And I can like that's the hard part too, is like because everyone has like different credentials and like I mean even in the States, like it used to be whenever you were applying for your license, you had to have a master's program of it's like 48 course hours, but then it changed to 60.
hmm.
And people were like grandfathered in who had like the 48, but then like after a certain point, people that had the 48, they had to go and get the extra 60 to meet the qualifications for everyone else. And then like I was like you have like and then if you get your doctorate, it's a whole different thing. Um, so I can only imagine like and then like plus the licensing process of having and that then varies by state. Because in Pennsylvania, you have to have 2,000 hours of post-grad supervised hours with supervision, um, 1 hour of individual supervision a week, and then 1 hour of group supervision a week to get
Hmm.
your license. And then you have to have like continuing ed courses every year for like to maintain your license. And then for that number of license of hours that you need also depends on the state. So in Pennsylvania, we have 30 hours every 2 years that we have to get. And then but I don't know anything else with the other countries because Pennsylvania is enough to manage on and of itself.
Yeah, it's complicated with supervision in Britain, and there are different associations, and they keep on changing their standards as well. So, like, I'm registered with BACP, but I think there is another level where you are accredited by a BACP, but it just another written work that you have to do to evidence that you're doing what you're doing, but it costs lots of money and time. People do it, and that's fine because some workplaces want you to be accredited rather than registered. But and people do that, and that's fine if they want to work for other companies. So if they want to work, let's say, for NHS, but I would rather spend that money on the training to benefit the clients rather than to benefit the organizations that just want to tick an extra box. But everyone has got a different perception of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's so cool. It's like, I mean, it's like not cool, but it's like, it's just interesting, I guess, like how everyone like does different things and how it depends on where you're working. Like if you're working in an agency, if you're working in private practice, like over there, like it depends on like what you have to do. Here, it doesn't matter if you're agency or private practice, you have to do the same number of things. You still have the same requirements they have to do. Just depends on
Mm,
like who's paying who's putting the bill for some of it. If you're working with an agency, the agency pays the bill for some of your trainings. Private practice, then you're on your own.
mm. Yeah. Well, for me, NHS, I think doesn't use all the possible approaches or whatever is available out there. So they seem to have, and it's just a national health system is the main health system in Britain. Yeah, so they use certain approaches and not necessarily, taking on something new. Yeah, and so it's more about cognitive functioning, mind approaches, whereas I'm more about mind-body integration. So working for NHS would have been difficult for me, I think. I would see it very limiting, very rigid, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wouldn't, yeah, I wouldn't enjoy it, let's say that.
Yeah, I agree. Like being limit, I think if a company tries to limit you, then like they're just stunting your growth personally as a professional, and then but they're also harming the clients too, because there are so many other approaches out there that can help them that actually do have evidence behind them to support their validity. So it's not like you're doing something that's experimental. Like they have been proven treatments that actually have been known to help, and
Mm.
so yeah, I
Well,
agree.
there is a question mark always about evidence based. Sometimes science is behind certain things, and so to purely rely on science, I don't know how beneficial that is. For example, when it comes to yoga, to do certain studies, it's actually costing more than any other approach. Let's say CBT, it costs actually millions, and that is only very small aspect of yoga that anyone can evidence by the current science. But yoga has been there for much longer than the science, so the science is somewhat behind yoga. So not all the science that comes up in this world is used everywhere in the world. For example, like Chinese medicine has been there for thousands of years, and traditional Indian medicine has been there for thousands of years again, for much longer than what is currently called, standardized or official science and medicine, which is a lot of the time is just Western one, which a lot of the time ignores everything else that happens in the world. Um, so which is not very
Yeah,
helpful.
that's
So
true.
not very integrative and inclusive, I would say. So there are always question marks as to um, what science, who it is driven by, why, and so forth, and why there is so much money in CBT and not yoga. Why? Because it's maybe cheaper. I don't know. That's one of the explanations, the most simplest one, but I'm sure there are others. Yes.
Yeah, that's very true because like you're right. And not all the times too, like what is deemed like verified or scientifically evidenced, it also depends on who's funding the research too.
Yes, that's what it says. Yeah.
Yeah, and like
So
and what results they kind of want to find as well, kind of like plays a part in it.
yes, yes. So when I did my psychology degree, we had a module on statistics, very important module. And it just was very interesting because we had a brilliant teacher. She loved statistics. So I think her fun, the biggest fun was to look at all these peer-reviewed studies and find mistakes there. And yeah, so it's just fascinating if you don't have as much knowledge or interest in statistics the way she did, there is no way you pick up on any manipulation in statistics, really. And it is peer reviewed one, considered to be the correct one, the one to follow. But, there are limitations.
Yes, that is very true.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So there is in Britain there is a lot on CBT because it's the government, and and it is useful and it's great and everything, but it has its own limits. So it's good to know those limits and maybe see what else can fulfill those limits, rather than being just stuck in one approach. And it's a great approach, whatever, but in some cases, it's just not enough.
Yeah, that's definitely really true. And like if even like I've been trained in EMDR and I'm like almost done with my certification for it. And it's like how was this? I was doing it with a client and we're doing like we've done like numerous rounds of processing and like it wasn't she wasn't getting there. Like she was still like stuck in her logic brain and it just wasn't happening. And I personally had some like hypnotherapy done on myself, and I'm starting a
Hmm.
hypnotherapy course. So I'm like,
Hmm.
let me try this. I told I got her consent. I said like I'm not fully trained in this yet. I'm like I'm getting there, and like and she's like yeah. I'm like well then try anything. I'm like okay cool. So I did like a really short little thing on it, and 10 minutes we accomplished more in 10 minutes with that than with like 40 of EMDR. I'm like okay, so we need to switch your approach. Like it's not like EMDR is not for you right now. We need to use this thing. And she's like, okay, cool. I'm like, okay. So that's not what
Yes,
we're going to
so
do.
that's why it's good to have different approaches, because it's not about just different clients, and it's about where they are in their lives, at the stage of their lives. And it's just fascinating how mind therapists can do the shift that the body therapists can do the shift that the mind therapists are unable to do. Like, I'm finishing off my certification hours for my EFT course. And EFT is, of course, tapping, and it's to do with the body more with the mind. Yes, we use the mind for observation, for clarification, for acknowledgement, what's happening in our body during the whole process. Yes, we do use the mind, but there is a lot that is happening on the physical level that we're not conscious about, because EFT is about unblocking the the stack points. Um, and yes, it creates great shifts within people. Like they don't. They're encouraged not to think, just to notice what's happening to them during the process, but actually after or during the process, they will come up with thoughts they have never had. So suddenly new thoughts appear, and I'm like, oh, okay, okay. And this is a great insight, and there is no particular deliberate effort from the mind to make that shift, but the body helps to unlock it.
Yeah, it
Wonderful.
is. Yeah, it's so crazy. Like once you get like the mind and body integration, like the healing process goes so much faster.
It
I feel
does,
like,
it just does. Yeah. It
yeah,
does, yes, yes. And EFT as well, it's about energies, and yoga is about energies. And there are so many other approaches to do with energies as well. For example, Reiki. I don't do Reiki, but some people do, and they find it absolutely fascinating what it can achieve as well. So, when we go into spiritual part of things, and energy by the Western society or science is seen by a spiritual part of it rather than anything else, I think. Um, yes, and it does some amazing work. It's not like I'm an expert on it, but I have some understanding of energy, and I wish to learn more. Yeah.
yeah, same. I the woman that I get my tattoos from, she's also a Reiki master, and
Mm,
she'll sometimes do Reiki on me, and like like just one it's just so crazy how like my energy changes after she's done Reiki and like clearing out stuff and I hold a lot of it in my shoulders and like so
mm,
like she does Reiki where she actually physically touches you and she always goes right to where it's like being held and then you feel like it kind of like radiating out of you and it's just
mm.
so cool like how it just
Yes.
how it works.
yeah, it's fascinating. So I like to learn different things. Yeah, I've done a lot throughout the years, but I want to learn more. So it's just interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's always, I feel like there's always so much more to learn. It's like it's never ending.
Never ending, but I'm enjoying it, really enjoying the process of learning because as therapists, we have to try it on ourselves, isn't it? All the time before we do it on the clients. And when we go out and um, share it with the clients and we see the results, it's just amazing.
Yeah. That's so cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Before we close out, how would you prefer people reach out to you if they're interested in like getting some therapy with you or getting the targeting support that you've been offering?
All right, thank you for having me today. Yes, so people can email me at info-olga-therapy.com or find me via my website, which is olga-therapy.com. So I'm changing the website. So now people will be able, at least for therapy anyway, to contact me for free consult, 20 minutes. And for tidying support, there is more information uh, that will be available on the website, but that one I think doesn't require any consult. I think it's just booking a session. But obviously, people might want to email me to clarify things before the book session. Yeah, so welcome.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.